Connor Bradley and so on. It seems like these guys are coming through over the last few years, that there's sort of been a rise in English-born players sort of coming through at the clubs and getting sufficient game time. Do you have some advice for these guys coming through about maybe sort of your rise to stardom, and how difficult it can be for an English-born player in the Premier League to shine?
Yeah, this is quite a difficult, well, not a difficult question, but it's it's quite a long-winded process. Bringing young players through is in theory it should be reasonably easy, but the problem is the Premier League is so strong that it's very difficult. So if I give you an example and say, England are very successful at youth levels, so we do produce a lot of good players, and we win tournaments at under 16, under 18, under 21. We are successful at youth level. However, getting players that are very, very talented into the first teams at the big clubs, and bear in mind the most talented players are at the big clubs.
Yeah.
The Man Cities, the Liverpools. That's where the majority of the best young players are. But the hard thing is, I don't care if you've won the World Under 18, World Under 19 championships. If you're a right-sided attacking player for Liverpool, I don't care if you're a world champion at under 19. You're not going to be as good as Mo Salah. You're not going to be, if Mo Salah's injured, you're not going to be as good as Jota or Nunez or whoever. Like, immediately, you need more experience in that level. This is like a different level again. So what a lot of the time happens is then those great players at the big clubs, where our best players are, they then get lost. Yeah. And good players, really good players, look at the example of someone like Phil Foden. The really good players then, a lot of these clubs are reluctant to send them out on loan. So they don't really get any education. And after 2, 3, 4 more years, they almost become stagnant, and they're not as great as they once were. And then we don't get the benefits of them in our first teams and our national teams. If I give you the opposite example of, let's say, England beat Portugal in the final in the World Cup under 19s, for argument's sake. Those players in Portugal are very talented. Their league is not as strong. Their remit is to produce players and to sell them for massive money. So all those players are either equal or less in terms of than the English players, are now playing 50 games for Boa Vista and 60 games for Porto and 80 games for, Sporting Lisbon. Yeah. And all of a sudden, we're seeing these players and they're scoring goals or doing great. And then we buy them for 60 million because they've got all this experience. Well, we had better. We had better 4 years ago, but we can't get them into it's too difficult. So now we're buying the finished products from elsewhere when we had the best in the first place. And it's exactly the same young managers, English managers, people in other countries have to give their own people chances because they have no other option. Whereas we can buy the best from all over the world, which is a lovely thing